Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Scale Smart podcast. I'm your host Jacob and also the founder of Next Scale Growth. Today I have the absolute pleasure of being joined by Torstein Gustavsen, the CEO of Tixio. Torstein, thank you so much for joining me today.
I'm happy to. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. It's a pleasure. Thank you for coming on. So before we get into the podcast, I want you to tell me and also tell the audience a little bit more about yourself, what your expertise consists of, and also what you guys actually do at Tixio.
As you said, my name is Torstein and I'm the CEO of Tixio, which is a software as a service company. And we provide a tool which makes it easier for everyone that wants to run a company to run their business with like a task manager. But the main core functionality here is that myself, I've been running multiple businesses, and what is annoying is to pay a lot of money for a lot of software that you don't use all of the features. So we created Tixio that has what you need basically for a task manager, for chat, for internal wikis, for stuff like that. And we can get more into that in details later, but for a more reasonable price, basically. That's what I do. I also run some other companies, but Tixio is like the software we use in our other companies on a daily basis to run our company and make apps and websites and brands for other companies as well. Yeah.
Amazing. And what was that driver to, let's say, start Tixio? Because I know there's so many people in the space right now who are very, very similar to Tixio. And like you mentioned there, a lot of them have got things in there which you don't necessarily need, but you're paying for them. So what was like the driver for you that was like, actually, no, we're going to go ahead and we're going to make something which you pay for what you need, essentially?
Yeah, so like we are now launching Tixio, or like Tixio Chat is already there, but it's like in the early stages. We are now launching our desktop application and app as well. But when like in our other company, we use Slack, to be honest. Right now, we use Slack, but the only reason we pay for Slack is because it's unlimited search history. And of course, there is integrations and all of that, but why should I pay so much for just using the one feature when I could when I mostly pay for it using the unlimited search history? And the same thing goes for like, we also have Tixio HR, we have Tixio CRM that we're launching in beta right now. And all of those, if you go to a HiBob, for example, it's minimum $5,000 a year. And then it's $5 per user per month. And if you go to other CRMs, for example, Pipedrive or HubSpot, so HubSpot has the free version, but you have to upgrade, and then all of a sudden it's $15 for the cheapest plan, $15 per user per month, and you don't use all of those features. It's the 20-80 rule. You use 20% of the feature, but you still have to pay 100% of the price. The goal is to be able to give, especially SMB companies, what they need, the core functionalities in the different areas, like our HR module as well. It should be easy to run HR and just be a little bit more professional than you normally are. You don't have to put all of your stuff in Google Docs, for example. And then that's the core functionality or core vision that everybody should be able to upgrade their standards a little bit, but not having to pay a lot of money for, let's say, Miro, for example, whiteboarding. It's a really awesome tool, but do you really need all of those functionalities in Miro? You tell me. But if you don't want to pay, you get a simple Canvas tool for free, basically, in Tixio, because you pay for the core module. Canvas is included. So if you feel that you're paying too much for software, try out Tixio. That's basically the core functionality or the core. But I think many will recognize themselves in that they feel that they're paying too much for tools. Our goal and vision is to make it a little bit cheaper for the ones that need to save a little bit of extra money. That's the vision.
Amazing. And obviously with you guys, with your software Tixio being designed for the SMBs, the fast moving teams, what would you say are some of the key growth challenges you guys have encountered, maybe in the past, but also now as well, as you continue to reach out to a wider audience?
Yeah. So everybody's competing with companies like ClickUp, right? Even though they don't have an HR module and so on, they just launched Chat, for example, and they're going hard against Slack. So it is hard to like try to because I'm not going to outcompete ClickUp in having the most amount of features. They have $500 million money to spend, and I don't. So it's hard to outcompete that. But there are challenges having people to understand, like, are you actually using all of those features? So that's something we need to work on in marketing, right? Are you actually using all of those features that you're paying for? Or are you just like, I've actually started using Vivo 3 in AI to create some ads, right? To have fun. And that's some challenges we have. Like, how can I make this come through? So what we did, I just prompted, like, can you have a medieval monk sitting in front of a fire in a church, having Slack and Miro and all of the logos and praying to all of those, like, and throwing money onto the fire, right? So it was quite fun, but it's, that's not a live ad yet, but it's trying to understand that you're actually just throwing money on the fire if you're paying for 5-6 different tools and you actually just use 20% of the features. That's a big loss, because if you calculate Slack cost, Miro cost, ClickUp cost, if you just compile all of those, it's a lot of money. I can guarantee you. And it's trying to get that into people's thoughts and have them actually think that, and also, of course, having them to go from one system to another system is also something that it's not the most fun thing to do if you want to go from Pipedrive to Tixio CRM, for example. It's going to take time and money, and that's also a challenge. Like, how do you convey them to do the change? Because if everybody in the organization has to change, it takes time, it takes money, that as well. But I think it's money or time well spent, of course.
Definitely, definitely. And like you say, the collaboration space is packed with products like Notion, Monday.com, ClickUp, Miro, Slack, etc.
Yeah.
What are you doing to make sure, I know you mentioned especially about the cost side of things, but what are you doing to make sure Tixio is actually standing out, and how do you continue to keep sharpening that differentiation?
Yeah, so that's a good question, because all of those software that you mentioned now, almost everyone has, like, everybody was there super fast. Like, we have AI now, right? We have AI. And the only thing they do, like Notion AI, was like, we'll help you make a larger note of what you just wrote, right? And that's, for me, it doesn't make that much sense. If they want to copy paste that into ChatGPT and then paste it into Tixio again, do that. I'm not going to give you just an extra layer of here's more text, right? So we are working very thoroughly on that, and not just wanting to give just the same thing that everybody else is doing. So you probably heard about Lovable and Claude and all of that, right? And a lot of companies are now spending time to getting to know how you prompt better and all of that, and maybe doing their own CRM. So that's actually what we have to compete with. People may be trying to create their own CRM. So what we are doing right now is embedding type of Lovable, or you can choose your own LLM. But if you want to use ChatGPT coding tool or whatever, you can actually use those inside Tixio when we get there. We're not done, but we are starting on it, so that you can. Let's say we have something called Tixio boards, which is basically where you create a board and you have all of the URLs of the software your company uses. So you have maybe Figma there, you have Salesforce or whatever, all of those tools, which bookmarks is created into bookmarks. So you have lifted your desktop into the clouds, basically. So that's one of the things nobody else has, like the online desktop, which syncs through all browsers and mobile phones, right? So let's say we now embed type of Lovable features into Tixio. That means that, let's say you want to use Tixio more as an intranet, you can write and prompt, say, can you help me make a kudos widget for Tixio? Based on that, we'll have to, technical part, we'll have to talk to who are the users inside Tixio, which stuff should you do, and limit so that you can't hack it, stuff like that. How can you then suddenly, just by some prompting, you created your own kudos widgets inside Tixio boards, and then people can now start giving kudos to other people. So instead of going to use Office Vibe or something else, and you have to pay $5 a month for that as well, just the kudos widget, basically, you can code that yourself into Tixio. That's the long-term goal that we have, that we're started working on right now.
Sounds amazing what you guys have got going, really, honestly. It's really, really good. And I think over time, people will start to realize these all you can say is that these people who you're competing with essentially just have a head start.
Of course, yeah, absolutely.
That's how we can think of it. And it's like, obviously some people can use it as an excuse, some people can use it as a driver, but what people kind of look at, what I see in their businesses, is they think like, oh, I've got such big competitors, I'm not going to go into that space. because the people are too big. But I think you can outcompete anybody if your product is better than theirs.
Yeah, like ease of use as well. Like HubSpot, for example, when I first used HubSpot, it was so easy and it was for free, even better, right? The CRM part of it. But now it's getting clunky, messy, so much features, but the features is there by default. It's not that you have to like find how to delete them.
Yeah.
So that's the annoying part, right? It should be that I could add them later. It should be clean and tidy from the beginning. So I feel that even now, like Monday, we used Monday before we used Tixio, and it was nice for product management. But after a time, it got more and more untidy, sort of. So for me, it got more messy at least. We also tried Rike before we had Monday. We had Rike for a while for project management, but of course now we only use Tixio tasks or Tixio projects to manage all of our tasks. But and like just make it a little bit easier, a little bit cleaner, a little bit tidier. You know what they say, like Facebook wasn't first. MySpace was before them, and you learn from other people's mistake, and you use that, and you try to think smarter about pricing plans, what people actually need, fair pricing, stuff like that. Then I think it's you should have a chance. That's at least what I'm betting.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I've worked with a lot of companies in like competitive spaces. Like software development as a whole is just really competitive. And I think the main important thing which people neglect when you're in such a crowded competitive space is actually the messaging and the marketing. And I think a lot of people focus too much on the product. They neglect the marketing side. And then when they go to do the marketing side, they're like, oh my God, we're literally so far behind. And then it just all comes
that is a challenge.
Down.
I'm right there now. Since I've also been running other companies on the side, I've been like building the product more than the marketing page. So that's absolutely a challenge. You have to tell them that.
Yeah.
So now with AI, I hope actually it would be easier to make cooler videos explaining that in a better way. So maybe we're lucky that we're just going into this phase now, while it's easier to use AI to create awesome stuff, basically.
Definitely. And I think it's really important that like someone like yourself has identified that problem, because what a lot of people do is they kind of hold on to it and they're like, nothing's wrong. Like, I just need to focus on the product. And once the product's perfect, then I can get it to the market. But you're not going to know your product's perfect until you get it to the market.
No, yeah.
So, and I see so many, like I've worked with so many companies who have had that thought process and it just hasn't worked out because they almost haven't had that like, why? This is why we're doing it. And if you don't have that why, it's very, very hard to scale a company. Very, very hard. And I've run a company for like 3 years now, so probably not as long as you, but what I did when I first started creating my company is I understood why I was doing it. And then every time I was, let's say, I shouldn't do this, I should do that, I was going back to the why. And I was like, actually, to get to why I'm doing it, I need to do this, or maybe I need to invest in something which maybe I can't afford now, but I know in the later it's going to actually pay off.
Yeah, you need to calibrate to that why, basically.
Definitely. As moving away from that now, as teams increasingly demand, let's say, smarter, more intuitive tools, how do you envision AI shaping the future of like digital workspaces?
Yeah, so what if you go back to, for example, HubSpot, they have reportings in the CRM, which is insane. You can do so much stuff. But the problem then is that where do I find all of that stuff? How do I get that shit right done? Because there's so many reports, templates and shit, but you spend half an hour just finding out where is the simple one that I actually need and want, right? So actually the first AI widget or tool we added into Tixio was, if you go to ClickUp or Monday or whatever, there is an automation center where you can put up automation that if this task status is set to done, then please do this, right? And what that needs is a user that knows what they need, right? But right now we put that in automation center. You can just like a ChatGPT, you can ask, I want to have this done. Can you please help me set up this automation? So it's just live. I'm not saying it's 100% or anything. I'm just saying that people are going to get more used to prompting. So how can we do that in other ways that just giving like AI, giving them more text? So that's the core functionality. Like, why are we actually, as I said, why are we implementing this feature? Why are we using AI for this? Is AI needed? And if so, why are we doing that? Not just giving more text.
Yeah. And I think, again, you've just mentioned something really, really important there. Obviously, I know AI is it's the new internet. Okay. It's like the .com era. And, but I think so many people are trying to personalize things, automate things when they don't really need it. And then things can start then to become clunky. They can become messy. They can actually automating things can actually probably hinder the results that you want because it doesn't need to be automated. And a big thing which I see in companies who use AI, who I've worked with who've used AI, is the human in the loop. And I think right now it's so important that AI still has that element, because I think AI can do astronomical things, like things that you could probably never think of. Like VO3 is outstanding. I'd never thought I would see something like that. And I truly believe we'll get to a point where there'll be AI generated Netflix series. I think
Yeah,
it will
yeah,
get to that point.
100%. Yeah.
But I think it's still not 100% where it could potentially be. And I think people aren't realizing that. And you're just like, oh my God, we need to automate everything. We need to integrate AI into absolutely everything. And although I agree, you need to implement some form of AI, because if you don't, you're going to get left behind, because other
Hmm.
companies will be. But I think people are just trying to automate things for the sake of automating things, and they don't need to.
Yeah. So yeah, that is a really good point. Yeah, that's why I'm like very careful. Like you can say that we relate. We're just trying to think before we act, so we don't spend a lot of time of stuff that's not necessarily needed, basically. So because everybody, if you go to Notion, ClickUp, everybody had, we have AI, and the only thing they had was that you can write something and they will just make it longer. That was the
Yeah,
only AI thing they had.
yeah,
And it's like,
yeah,
I don't need to spend time on this.
yeah.
Let's go think further. So hopefully that will pay off.
Definitely, definitely. And listen, just to wrap up now, looking into the next 6 to 12 months, obviously I know marketing, you mentioned being a big one and kind of getting ahead of the competitors.
Hmm.
But what are some of the goals you've got to scaling Tixio to that next level?
Yeah, so like implementing that, because we have seen users we have right now are using Tixio in different ways, which is awesome. Now, somebody's using it as an intranet, somebody's just using the HR feature, and that's okay for me as well. And somebody is using the wiki and the project management tool and not using the chat at all. They still use Slack, and I'm fine with that. Cool, do your thing. Just use whatever you think is fine. Like giving the possibility for people to add stuff like kudos widget, or like make a widget inside the board view where you can see all of your team members on a world map with who's online or not, right? Stuff like that. And then giving them the opportunity and being able to analyze what people are actually wanting, because I
Hmm.
can, of course, like not I can't read what people are writing, like as of like it's privacy is first, of course, but we could still maybe utilize that data to see what are people actually wanting from us, like when they're prompting. We can see what features should we build or help get better based on that. So now that we have Tixio Task, Tixio Board, Tixio Chat, Tixio HR, Tixio CRM, we should be pretty well, as a new started company, should be pretty well covered. And then we have to polish, we have to improve, and we have to make sure that AI is implemented in a way that makes it easier for people to build stuff they need without
Yeah,
having to go to Lovable. They can just do it
yeah,
inside Tixio instead.
yeah. Amazing, amazing. And Dustin, if people wanted to reach out to you and find out some more about Tixio, where's the best place for them to go?
Go to the website. You can also just email me directly on torstein@tixio.io. Sure, I'm happy to take any calls.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a pleasure having you on the podcast.
Likewise, thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye bye.